Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here. Thank you for tuning in today. In today's episode, we are back on the Fixing It Forward Honda Odyssey, 2005 Honda Odyssey to be precise. I have a bunch of new parts for it and a few things I'd like to do, but I have recently just mounted and balanced a whole new set of tires for it. Nokian Tires was kind enough to send me a set of tires for this, their new product line or whatever with armored sidewalls. I'll link those down in the description. So tires are mounted and balanced, but still got some suspension work to do, still got some engine work to wrap up, and a few other things. I'm not exactly sure what all will be in this episode, but one of the things that I want to start with, I got some new attachments for the front bumper, and I'm going to try to reattach that. But before I do that, you might remember a video I did a while back about making your AC system work more efficiently by cleaning the condenser. And given that the front bumper has been removed from this, I've got great access to this condenser. So I'm going to take some of this new brake that I'm going to use to clean this condenser out and get that done before I mount the front bumper. It is an absolutely perfect day to be outside the shop and do something like this.
Why not hit that little bit of radiator too, right?
And now we wait. Well, it's been about half hour, 40 minutes or so. And this is about as clean as I think it's going to get. So now it's time to rinse. Believe it or not, this is huge for AC performance. I'll link the video in the description about this. Got this tip from my friend Paul, who works in HVAC, and I've been using it since, and it's been very effective. Now let's get this thing back in the shop. Here are the new parts and their part numbers. They are left and right. I'm not exactly sure which is which, but I'll list it down in the description as far as what goes where. But I am encouraged to see that it does come with new clips, so I don't have to worry about breaking the old ones when I remove this. But removing the old clips is what I'm going to do now. Now this is the right side. There's a screw that holds it in right there. And there's also these two plastic clips, which I just showed you over on the bench. There's a very long screw. So these are hose clamp pliers. Here's the clip. What I did was I came in behind it and I used this to pinch in the parts where it was retained. This is like a magic trick I just showed you. I don't know how I'm gonna possibly get up behind this one, but. That did it. Looks like this one is the left side. Now I'm banking on that these clips across the top will help hold the bumper in place, and I won't have to use those screws anymore. There might be just enough of the bumper left to do that. I'm honestly not sure. I just noticed that this one's even marked with an L. Right side part number. This one is also marked with an R. Let's see if that paid off. Certain it looks better, but will it hold? It's in there better. I can't say it's perfect. Like I said, it's not all there. I think it looks better than a screw going into the side of it. Get this upper piece back on. Before I do, it looks like there's clips there that are hidden. Long ones definitely go in here and here. I just have a set. That's the upper part. What's missing here is an entire lower front splash shield, and many of these bumper attachments go into it. So I'm gonna look for one of those, but I think we're, as successful as we're gonna be with what's happening here. And I also, from the looks of it, want to get a fender liner for this right front, because that's supposed to come under like this one does. And that will help hold this whole structure into place. It's one of my main reasons for going after that. I'll just add that to the list of things that I'm ordering for this. Here's the new catalytic converter I was going to install, and since it's up in the air, might as well do that. Came with two gaskets. You can see that they're slightly different. It's kind of only one way that it goes on. Came with new fasteners too. One flange is different than the other, and this flange, this style, goes up here on the front. Well, that's job done. Two things that I didn't have parts for in the previous episode, and that was the PCV valve and this O2 sensor, which I'm going to replace now. Here's the part number for the PCV valve. Some people mentioned in the previous episode, or the comments to the previous episode, that I should have done a valve adjustment on this engine, which is possible. And in fact, I've done videos about doing valve adjustments on J-Series V6s. A couple of things. I didn't really feel it was necessary, number one, and neither does Honda. In fact, what they say is only when noisy. So they really don't have a service interval for a valve adjustment. And I will also say this. If you get it wrong, you've got to remove this intake manifold and the valve covers and do it all over again after you wait for the thing to get stone cold. Also, if you remember, the front bank was kind of gunked up, and whenever I see that, a lot of times the adjuster nuts, accumulate that gunk, and when they do, it makes valve adjustments difficult. So I guess that's my long-winded explanation of why I'm justifying not doing a valve adjustment in the last episode. But I think the summary is, I didn't feel it was necessary. Just wrecked my day, I think. The top came off, the rest stayed inside. That ended up down inside the fan. If I would have left it there, it could have hit the fan and caused a problem. Dipstick, get this thing out of here so I don't break it. Enough breaking things for today. This is a self-tapping screw that I'm gonna try to run down in here. Time for a different self-tapping screw. It's a larger variety. Be very careful removing old plastic engine parts, but this self-tapping screw saved the day. I put a drop of oil on both the O-rings before I'm putting it in. Now for that O2 sensor. So the inner part of the connector fell out, and now I need to hunt for it, likely down inside that fan. There it is. This piece actually locks all the pins in place. So if you don't put it back in, the pins can come out, and you don't want that, because then you get a check engine light, and that one might be hard to find. To remove this O2 sensor, I'm just going to cut the wires and use a regular 7/8 socket. I find it's easier to do that. But I'm also going to remove this coil pack, and then right behind it is this heat shield that's held down by these two 10mm fasters. I want to remove those as well before I put a socket down on the O2 sensor. All of that will allow me easier access. This is that heat shielding I mentioned. There's all kinds of room down in there now. And I did check the new part to make sure that it was correct before I did this. I'll put part numbers down in the description. This new sensor did have NICs on it, but not a whole lot. So I'm gonna add a little more. All better. It's time to see if that effort paid off. Last time, whenever I would start the engine, I had a check engine light immediately, so that sensor was dead. So this time, let's see if the check engine light stays on. And it does. Let's pull the codes, find out what we got now. So this is interesting. So that is a brand new sensor. Second code that I'm getting, same thing. So this is odd. I busted out my fancy scan tool so I could get a look at the data stream and see what the computer is seeing. So I pulled up most O2 sensor things, but most interesting are the first two. The air fuel sensor bank 1 and bank 2, the way they're here. You'll notice bank 1 will go negative and then back to 0. 0 is good combustion. Negative means it's rich. Positive means it's lean. This one over here, however, is stuck negative all the time. Doesn't change at all. Also, you'll note over here, bank 1 went into closed loop, whereas bank 2 is not going into closed loop because of the DTC it's setting. Ironically, this is the same whether the engine is on or off. I'm beginning to wonder if this sensor is bad. And I think what I'm gonna do to confirm that, or the possibility of that, is to take the two primary sensors and switch them. So if this problem from bank 2 moves to bank 1 when I switch the sensors around, then I know that it's a sensor problem. But if it doesn't, This could indicate a problem with the wiring or perhaps even the PCM itself, which that would really suck. You have to basically eliminate every other possibility before you condemn a PCM, and I hope I don't have to go there. Hopefully it's just cheap O2 sensors. Seems to run really smoothly though. And this steam over here is from when I cleaned the condenser. It's all that water I sprayed into the radiator is gassing off. Brand new sensor. Still smoking. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back and clear the codes. I've already got a DTC. Let's see if that moved. If it says bank 1, sensor 1, we know that's a bad sensor. Bank 1, sensor 1. So that's a bad sensor. Brand new sensor that's bad. Just for the heck of it, let's look at the data stream. Just went into closed loop where it wouldn't do that before. And now we got movement. That's a bad sensor. Son of a gun. Well, that was a time suck. Brand new sensor. So this is how I found that sensor. I went to Honda's website and I went through their parts catalog and I found the part number for that particular sensor. Then I went to Amazon, put in that part number into the search parameters, and I came up with this sensor. Now, I normally get Denso sensor, but I looked at this one and it was actually cheaper. So I thought, it kind of looks like a Denso sensor. It's just not in a Denso box. I wonder. Well, wonder no more. Don't buy no-name brand O2 sensors off of Amazon. And that may be obvious to some of you, but here's a demonstration as to why. So I'm going to pick up not one, but two Denso sensors for both the front and rear of this van, because I don't want to have to deal with it, because both of those sensors came from the same place. One worked, one didn't. That's not so cool. Be quiet. That's my diagnostic tool. Anyway, so I'm gonna have to order some sensors. I'll do that. Let's move on to the next thing. Now it's time to address something that I've kind of been avoiding for a while because I know it's gonna be a fight, and that is what's here over on the workbench. What you're looking at is two new rear lower control arms and two new coil springs, along with new bolts and everything that hold it all together. You might remember from the introductory of this that the rear cam bolts were frozen, and in order to do an alignment and protect my new tires, I'm going to have to do this. Previously, I've done this same operation on my 2012 Odyssey, and I installed basically some upper control arms that could adjust for the camber change that happened as a result of sagging rear coil springs. I'm taking a different approach this time and just replacing those coil springs along with these lower control arms because, well, hey, I'm going to have to remove the coil springs to put these on anyway. I've covered this process in detail in another video, and I know that was on my 2012 Odyssey, and this is a 2005. But I think if you've seen that video, you'll see that this setup is exactly the same. It's unchanged from 2005 to 2012. And it was probably like this before then as well. So this will apply to a lot of Odysseys. I'm going to begin on this right side. I consider it the hard side because this exhaust is so in the way. I just looped this bungee cord around where this hanger went to hold things up. But that offers me all this room to come in here and just start cutting. Hose clamp pliers. You never know until you try. And I have a multi-pack of blades. Ah, the smell of roasting bushings. Bushings roasting on an open Odyssey. Rust crust dripping on your nose. Smells awesome, by the way. I mean, they should make scented candles like this. Fill your house with the aroma of burnt rubber. Okay then, I just gotta get the bits out. Ta-da! Here's the part number for the coil springs, which I believe are the same on both sides. And here's the part number for the complete kit of bolts and everything that you will need to get this together. After comparing the new parts and the old parts, I think I figured it out. They're exactly the same, save one thing. Where this threaded sleeve is, this will be the one for the right side because the bolt goes through this way. This will be the one for the left side because the bolt goes through this way. Here's the part number for the right side one, and here is the part number for the left side one. Looks like I messed up ever so slightly. This part number in this bag contains bolts and nuts for both sides, so all you need is one of these. You don't need two. However, am I sad that I have an extra one of these? Not at all. As I said, this is the exact same as my 2012, and how often do you think this problem happens? It happens quite often, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to use these at some point. Rest assured, this will get a liberal coating of anti-seize before it goes up in there. Liberal coating. I don't think it matters which way the coil springs go in. However, the one that came out had this green mark at the top and white at the bottom. I'm doing the same with the one I'm installing. I'm a little sad I forgot to get these, but I'm going to reuse them. And this goes here, in case you're wondering. Get my bolt ready, which came out easily, thankfully, but still, I like the anti-seize for this. Anytime I got bolts going into bushings on a Honda, I like to make sure those bolts have anti-seize. You can do this exact same thing with a floor jack on the ground. It's probably safer. Well, about the same. I just say safer because you're closer to the ground and you're not underneath it like I am here. Wait and tighten this on the ground. That's one side done. Why didn't you tell me that bolt came out? I would have quit sawing. Only got 2 blades left after this. Well, 1 blade after this one. Take that. The battle was epic, but I prevailed. Now let's install some new parts. Something I forgot to do while the other side was off, and it's not too late now because I can actually get up through there. I have some rust protectant that I'm going to put on the areas that are exposed, that are rusty. Try and keep that from happening anymore. Why couldn't they make the inner bolts out of this same stuff? And get those wheels back on, get it down on the ground, tighten those fasteners. That's job done. I am taking these to 80 foot-pounds. Remember the O2 sensor fiasco? Well, they showed up. And here's the part numbers for Denso sensors, which I highly recommend, that I'm going to install now. And then we'll recheck to see if we still have an issue. Can you tell which one's Denso and which one's not? Well, probably because the old one still has some soot on it. But this is the new sensor, the Denso sensor, and this is the one that I pulled out. No, I did not forget the anti-seize. They're installed. Going to start by clearing the codes. Yay! No diagnostic trouble codes. Now, let's pull up the data stream.
No check engine light. Yay!
Things are looking way better now. Both are in closed loop. Short-term fuel trim is very similar on both. All right, I'm gonna call that done. Let's move on. Hard to tell if this is the catalytic converter shield or this pipe. This shield, way loose. It's just flopping around. I keep these around, they're large. They go around catalytic converters because the shields come loose. Ah, you're not quite long enough. New solution. Oh yeah. Feels like we're in the home stretch now. Remember this broken piece on the air snorkel? Well, I have a new one. This really wasn't that expensive from Honda, and I like it better than used because, well, that's used. Anyway, there's the part number for it. We have to switch over the spring. So it unhooks. There's a notch and a notch. Normally there's a hose clamp here, but I don't see it. I think it'll be fine without it, but normally there's a hose clamp there. Really? Do all of this for an air filter? I don't think I like you very much. Good to go. Eric, what about the oil change? Well, good call. And I got this oil treatment that was sent to me. Apparently what this does is clean things out of the engine. We saw what was down inside there, and we want to see if we can address that. New PCV valve should go a long way. But this stuff needs to go in a warm engine, and then we run it for 10 minutes, and then we change the oil. So this goes in before I change the oil. And this is kind of what I was waiting on. Another thing the instructions say is that they recommend doing this every oil change for best results. So I might give the new owner a couple of these to use in the next couple of oil changes just to get this front cylinder head cleared out. Because it's such a nice day, I'm gonna start it up, let it run, open the door, and I'm gonna hang out outside while it does this. The instructions state not to rev the engine or anything, just let it idle for about 10-15 minutes. So I reread the directions, and it actually said let it run for 10 minutes. Well, I've let it run for actually 15, a little more. So let's get it up in the air and change the oil. Oh, I just love you, oil change shop, for changing the drain plug. Ooh, hot stuff. I'm gonna see if I've got a normal Honda drain plug lying around. At least I didn't screw up the threads, or appear to. Pays to be a pack rat. The old one, garbage. That oil is pretty darn thin. Whatever's in that cleaner stuff, it certainly thins the oil out. I can see why they don't want you driving it or revving it up. So whenever a junk engine would go out the door, or I don't know, anytime I had an opportunity, I'd save drain plugs. Honda drain plugs, because this problem is so prevalent and it really bothers me. I might have already said that I'm adding some of this, a quart of this to the whole thing that is supposed to, well, you can read it. I'll link it in the description also. They sent me this along with the desludger, whatever you want to call it. J Series takes 5 quarts, or more specifically 4.7. But I guess it really depends on what oil filter you use. That can affect it. Start it up, check it for leaks. It's quieter already. That stuff really thins out the oil. I don't see any leaks. That may be the end of the stuff we've got to do under the hood. I hope those aren't famous last words. These wiper blades, well, could you even call them that? The wiper blades that I'm going to be installing today are actually Honda original equipment. And the reason for that is the next time this thing needs wiper blades, you don't need to replace the whole blade. You can actually just swap out these rubber inserts, and it's very affordable. I think they're only like $6 or $7 a piece. And you can get them at the local Honda dealer, or you can order them online. And no, I did not forget about this guy. Also original equipment, also was wasted. I think that wraps up the work under the hood and under the van. We did that rear suspension and everything, wrapped up the work with the engine and all that. That hood might be closed and it might stay closed, and I might be done putting the thing on the lift, but we're not done yet because there's still the work to do on the interior, and there's a little bit to do there. Additionally, I wanted to do those door rollers. So next, I guess I'm going to focus on the body. If you missed previous episodes, I'll link those down in the description so that you can check them out. Also, other episodes of Fixing It Forward, also tools and parts and stuff that I used that you might find useful. Probably the biggest takeaway from this video is don't buy non-Denso O2 sensors from Amazon. So if they're a no-name brand, don't buy them. Don't waste your money. It seems like you're saving money, but you're not saving money. Go for Denso, you'll be fine. Part numbers and stuff linked down in the description, as I said, along with a link to EricTheCarGuy.com, which is where I ask you to go if you have automotive questions. Other than that, thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty, and I will see you next time.